Poverty is the accumulation of poorly invested hours is a very impactful phrase, but unfortunately very true about the reality and situation of many people who live with many needs, without opportunities and lack of money, investing their valuable time working tirelessly, but in activities with miserable incomes with which they subsist day after day, believing that wealth is a matter of luck or impossible to achieve. If you would like to know how to achieve this success in your finances, then this video is for you, because today we will see the 5 financial intelligences that you must develop to generate money and wealth. Are you ready? Let's get started. What is financial intelligence? Can you predict a person's future just by looking at how they spend their time and money? Jack Ma, on September 10, 1964, was born somewhere in China. A boy who performed very poorly academically and failed several exams at his school. As a young man, he applied to work at KFC, where 24 candidates showed up for 23 vacancies, and he was the only one who was not accepted. However, he persisted and got a job at McDonald's, but a few days after starting, he was fired for not meeting expectations. In his college years, he decided to apply to one of the most prestigious universities in the world, Harvard, and failed to get in. He tried a second time and also failed. He tried a third time, failing again. He applied up to 10 times and was never accepted. When he decided to undertake and look for investors in the cradle of entrepreneurship, Silicon Valley, everyone answered him with a resounding no. With this history, what would you expect from this person in their financial future? Years later, this man would become one of the richest on the planet. We are talking about Jack Ma, the founder of the Chinese giant company Alibaba. How could we explain that, according to his background, he should have had a poor financial future, but the opposite happened? According to Robert Kiyosaki, this is due to financial intelligence, which defines the part of our intellect that we use to solve financial problems, and financial IQ is the measure of that intellect. You must know people who, despite having been very intelligent in their academic life, are not the ones who had the best financial future. For example, the famous Nikola Tesla, who was undoubtedly a brilliant person, but ended his days in the most absolute poverty. Kiyosaki uses his father as an example. An exceptional teacher and master, a very hard-working and intelligent person, however, with a low financial IQ, whom in his book he would call his poor father, who ended up leaving debts to his family. On the other hand, there are people who were not the brightest in school, but in adulthood achieved impressive financial results. Reality indicates that having exceptional intellectual intelligence is no guarantee for creating wealth. With average intelligence, you could get better returns, as long as you develop your financial intelligence. For example, you would have a higher financial IQ just by knowing about taxation and taxes. Let's say you earn $10,000 in a year and pay 20% in taxes. However, another person who earns the same with $10,000 and pays 40% in taxes. This would be an indicator of high financial intelligence because you are able to take advantage of tax knowledge to legally pay less taxes. For Kiyosaki, there are 5 types of financial intelligences that you could develop to achieve wealth, as they play a determining role in your financial and personal future. We will see in detail these 5 types of financial intelligence that I recommend that you develop. There are 5 basic financial IQs: how to produce more money, protect your money, budget it, leverage it, and increase your financial information. They are indispensable to be developed if we want to improve our relationship with money and ensure that it works for us, to be able to generate it and stop being a concern in our lives. Let's see each one in detail. Produce more money. You've probably heard often that you should save and reduce your spending, which is important because it helps you take care of your money. But what will really make a difference in your current financial situation and accumulate wealth to have financial freedom is increasing your income. And there is no limit except the level of your financial intelligence. Therefore, you must develop it so that it does not become an obstacle to your economic success. Because the more money you earn, the higher your financial IQ will be, according to Kiyosaki. The rich get richer because they have learned to solve the money problems they encounter along the way, thanks to financial intelligence. For example, doctors are paid to take care of people's health and prevent diseases, lawyers for helping in legal and judicial situations. That is, people pay to have their problems solved. So, if you want to have more money, learn to solve them. There are many people out there waiting for you to solve their problems. Take some time to look around and identify them, to find some lucrative opportunity and offer a solution. Do you have any business ideas, any skills, or anything you do very well? Identify this, take advantage of weekends or your free time to dedicate yourself to it and develop it. Sooner or later, you will find the opportunity to offer it and profit from it. Seeing opportunities where others see problems is a very common characteristic of successful people who have achieved wealth. Your job is to identify these opportunities. Once found, dedicate yourself to learning and practicing until you become an expert. Then you will get the financial results you want. You will be able to have more clients, charge more, and significantly increase your income. This will allow you to acquire assets that produce more and more money that do not depend on your presence and your time. But let's see more clearly how generating more income will increase your wealth. Typically, poor or middle-class people have their income that they use to pay their expenses and their liabilities. They have small assets and therefore a small net worth as well. Remember that net worth is the difference between all your assets minus your liabilities or debts. Your net worth is your wealth, is what you should seek to increase. When you produce more money and increase your income, keeping your expenses without increasing them, you will have surpluses, that is, your savings to invest in your assets. Thus, these assets will grow, as will your equity, and the time will come when your income generated by your assets will be so great that, like a snowball effect, your net worth will increase rapidly and significantly, and therefore also your wealth. You must understand that it is not about working more because there are many people doing this and they continue to be poor, but rather about using your financial intelligence to increase your income and your assets that generate benefits to achieve your financial freedom. Protect your money. The first rule of wealth is not to lose it, Warren Buffett. As important as making money is being able to keep it. Remember that wealth is not measured by the amount of income you have, but rather by your ability to accumulate it through your assets that generate benefits or by increasing your net worth. That is, what is left after subtracting the value of all your assets from all your outstanding debts. How many celebrities do we know who have managed to accumulate a large amount of money using the first intelligence we mentioned, that of producing money? However, they failed in the second intelligence, that of protecting it, and in a short time, they ended up in complete ruin. Therefore, keep in mind that it is not enough to accumulate assets, but rather to ensure that your liabilities and expenses do not end up with them. Otherwise, there will be no point in increasing your income if, in turn, you continue to increase your spending. Make sure you protect your money from the threats that will arise around it. For example, the more money you have, the more the bank will offer its financial products, offering you higher category cards, mortgages, vehicle loans. This is no coincidence. The bank's business is to lend money to those who don't need it and who can pay it back and thus earn interest on it. When you have more money, government agencies will start to audit your financial movements even more and will apply higher tax rates. Beware of people close to you, family or friends, who, upon learning that you have money, will appear as if by magic and will approach you to solve their financial life, or there will be no shortage of those who offer you the millionaire business. If this sounds familiar to you, Kiyosaki calls them all financial predators and recommends that you be very careful because they will try to strip you of your money, and all the effort you made to earn it will be useless if you lose it at their hands, because they will inevitably appear on your way to wealth, for which you must be prepared. Before proceeding, if this knowledge is being useful to you, I invite you to like and subscribe to receive more content. Now let's continue. Budget your money. We explained the importance of planning your expenses and having a budget in several previous videos, and why you should track your income and expenses and track them according to your established financial goals. However, when preparing it, you may have a deficit budget. That is, you may not have enough money to meet your expenses, as is probably the case with most, or you may have a surplus budget and have money left over. When people are short of money or have a deficit budget, they resort to debt or use their credit cards, getting into financial problems that will be even more difficult to solve later due to the high interest incurred. If you are in this situation and are short of money, before you even think about investing or saving, you should pay off your debts and reduce your unnecessary expenses. After that, to improve your budget and have surplus money, look for new ways to earn additional income that allow you to save or invest. When you have this surplus budget, prioritize saving. That is, pay yourself first and only after what is left over, allocate it to your expenses. A surplus budget will allow you to allocate your savings to have 3 to 6 months of your income as an emergency reserve, and only after that start looking for investment alternatives to increase the assets that provide you with passive income and thus depend less and less on a salary or a job. Leverage your money. Leverage means doing more with less, getting more money by investing as little as possible. This intelligence is the one that will most impact your financial life and significantly increase your income and results. Many people think that it is necessary to have a lot of money for this. However, there are many ways to leverage to generate more money, for example, with money from banks or with money or time from other people. In real estate, leveraging with banks is very common because you only need to have 10% or less of the value of a property to acquire it and be able to generate income by renting it or selling it. For example, millionaires leverage other people's time by hiring them to take care of their homes, run their businesses, leaving them free time to continue making money. They do not get distracted by activities that do not add value. They delegate all these activities and focus their time on everything that brings them greater benefits. They also leverage their businesses with loans from financial institutions at very low interest rates to use them in their investments, financially, and at the business level. Debt is known to generate profits, although it seems incredible. Therefore, it is often more convenient to use credit than the company's own money because it is less expensive and more profitable. But care must be taken not to over-indebt so as not to affect the level of risk and the increase in credit rates. For example, let's look at this first case where we invest $10,000 of our money in a business with a 20% margin per year. So we would have a profit of 20% of what was invested. That is $2,000, totaling $12,000. Now let's see in a second case where we leverage ourselves with the bank's money through debt. We will invest the same as in the previous case, $10,000 of our own money, and we will borrow $10,000 more from the bank at an interest rate of 10% per year. So at the end of the year, being the same business, the margin would also be 20% of the $20,000 invested. We would get $4,000 in profit, totaling $24,000, of which we must return to the bank the $10,000 borrowed and $1,000 corresponding to 10% interest, keeping $13,000, which is more than the $12,000 obtained in the first case, using the same $10 of our money. This shows us the power of leverage to generate profits. Without a doubt, companies earn, but with leverage through debt, they earn more. Increase your financial information. People think that people's wealth is in their money. However, its main wealth is in its ability to generate it and in its knowledge. Therefore, you need to inform yourself and know the business or investment in which you are going to invest. Otherwise, it is very risky to invest, for example, in the stock exchange, in real estate, or in any other business without having knowledge of these subjects, because you can easily lose your money. According to Kiyosaki, before we hand over our money to financial experts, we must make sure we learn and develop our own financial intelligence. First, learn about what you are going to invest in, practicing with discipline, because there are no shortcuts or quick paths. We are currently in the information age, and for better or for worse, it is available to everyone. Therefore, it is important, if you want to be responsible with your money, to know the difference between opinions and facts in this sea of information, internet and social networks. You must develop your critical capacity to find and educate yourself with correct information that allows you to make better financial and investment decisions based on facts and not opinions. How many times have we met people who, guided by false investment gurus, lost all their money? For example, there is a strategy in investments used by unscrupulous people called pump and dump, which consists of buying cheap and inflating the price of a share, creating false expectations of future profit, and selling it at the highest point, leaving the naive investors and uninformed who believed they had made the business of their lives with great losses and useless assets. Therefore, be well informed, because you will find voices on the network that will offer the holy grail of business, that have found the formula to enrich you, and that, generously, will share it for a modest amount of money. There are many people who fall into these situations, especially the less informed. For example, if you want to invest in real estate, then you should educate yourself, read about the subject, attend conferences, training, subscribe to industry magazines, and surround yourself with people who are already in this business. Thus, you will be able to obtain information about the sector. There is no better teacher than experience, so learn from the experience of others. Leverage their knowledge. After learning, consider investing gradually, taking calculated risks and without significantly risking your capital. Gain experience in what you want to invest in, and as Kiyosaki says, the important thing to make money is not the asset you are going to invest in, but what you know about that asset. We all deal with money, but unfortunately how to manage it is not taught in schools. Therefore, we see many people with economic problems, mainly due to lack of financial education. Whether you are an employee, entrepreneur, or investor, you must take care of your money, and for that, you must ensure that you develop your financial intelligence, as your income, results, and financial success will depend directly on the level of that intelligence. Like this video, so that YouTube recommends it to more people. I also left some recommended videos. Thank you for your time invested. Until next time.